Good morning. I wanted to make a quick video because I see a lot of criticisms of LS's coaching technique and coaching philosophy, and I wanted to disagree with them. So I want to say that basically he helps people get where they should be going faster than a different style of coach, and that they're both valid ways of approaching coaching. So first of all, the three criticisms. Number one, that he's stubborn and doesn't back down from a point. Number two, I think that I see is that he's really confrontational, so that he confronts people on their mistakes, doesn't let them off the hook. And the third one that I see a lot is that he's really nitpicky, like he picks a small detail and hones in on it at the expense of, other stuff that could be talked about. So I think that's the three main ones. If you have other ones, put them in the comments down below and we can talk about them there. I engage in my YouTube comments, so we'll definitely talk about it if I missed one. So first one about stubbornness, I don't think this applies very much in the coaching realm. I think it comes from like a mentality where you're trying to be the best in the world. You can't follow other people and not believe in like your system and the way that you do things and expect to become the top of the heap and get to the top, right? So you could say this is kind of like a winner's mentality. Obviously, like there are winners out there who have the mentality, but then also are able to bake in, ideas and feedback from other people. And some of that's an age thing, maturity thing, experience thing. But also there are people that don't, and there's no reason that they need to if they're right. So I don't think that he runs into a lot of people who know more about the game than him. And so that can be challenging when he's actually the one who's correct. So is it stubbornness when you're right and the other person's wrong? You could argue that it's not. It's just the other person is frustrated that he won't, admit that he could maybe be in the wrong. But, in LS's mind, he thinks he's right and he knows he's right. And he believes that because he wants to be the best and he's aiming for that. And so if he short circuits that kind of aspect of his pursuit, I don't know what you're asking of somebody. Okay, second thing. Now this is much more in line with coaching philosophy. So confrontation. So first of all, let me get into what coaching is, for a brief sentence. I'm not going to dive into it for ages, but I think coaching is an art where you are basically changing one person's behavior from point A to point B, and you're usually trying to make it a better behavior. Okay, that's it. Right. So when I say behavior, I mean everything, including physical skills and stuff like that, like actual behavior, but also the behaviors leading up to attaining those physical skills. Right. And there's a lot of scientific basis for coaching. So the psychological, neurological, physiological kind of things you have to know. But the actual implementation in the context of a single person where you are working on them, operating on them as an individual. So there's a group dynamics, yes, but at the end of the day, it's the person who you're trying to change. Getting them from point A to point B, that is like an art at the moment. That is a human and human interaction, social interaction, right? That's why there are as many coaching philosophies as there are coaches. Okay, and there are fundamental theories about coaching which kind of hold true across the realm, across the field, but it's not like this is the right way and this is the wrong way. It's like the flavors of mustard, right? This guy likes this mustard, this guy likes this mustard. Maybe there's a right way for a person and a right way for a wrong way for a person. But as a coach, you kind of all in on a certain style and hope that you can broaden it enough to apply to everybody who needs other styles as well. Okay, so here's an example of pro player A and pro player B kind of doing opposite things and what it would look like if Nick or LS was coaching them. This is all about values. Okay, so I believe that essentially LS helps you get to where you should be connecting with your values sooner than not being confrontational and nitpicking about things. So essentially, you say that you want to get better at League of Legends, or a pro player says, I want to win worlds, I want to be the best. Okay, then a situation happens that has emotion in it. And humans are basically emotionally driven creatures. We act on our urges and our psychological impulses based around our emotional states. So let's say that your coach confronts you on stream about, some nitpicky thing and embarrasses you and it's frustrating and it's shameful and all these things. And you have two choices how you can act. You want to be better, so you could swallow all of that and try to absorb as much as possible from this moment that you paid for. Or you could kind of get defensive about it and argumentative about it and do a lot and say a lot of things which are meant not to improve your skill in any way, but only to make yourself feel better. Either feel less shame or feel less embarrassment or feel better about yourself or something like that, right? To absolve your emotional state, to try to neutralize the equation, okay? Whereas people who are connected with what they actually value, so they want the thing that they say they want more than they care about their absolving their internal emotions, will swallow all sorts of crap in order to attain what it is that they want. So they will just like suffer the indignity and try to absorb as much as they can because they know it's one step along the path of where they're going and they actually value it. So this isn't about discipline and motivation, saying like this person's undisciplined and this person's unmotivated. It's just saying he actually doesn't want it. That's what motivation is. You either want it or you don't. So we're going to the pro player. He says he really wants to win worlds. I've seen all sorts of these kinds of players in traditional sport, in the trainings that I've worked with. There's player A and player B. Player B says he wants it. He really wants it. Something happens in game. I teach him the techniques for how to like pursue his values over his emotions. So something happens in game, like his teammates inting, or he ends up feeding or something, and he swallows all of the frustration. He doesn't do the thing that player B does, which is like he like falls silent, or he starts making passive aggressive comments about his teammate, or he does various other ways of tilting or choking in terms of a team dynamic, inting himself. And instead, he says what the other player needs to hear to win the game. His goal is to win the game. He wants to win the game as a team. So he reverse engineers his teammate, says what that person needs to hear to like pick it back up and focus and increase the percentage chance that they might win and get better. He wants what he values. He values what he wants, and he acts according to it and accepts, you might say, the other stuff. It feels like suppression when you're maybe, if you look at it in the masculine sense and you think of it as a war, it feels like a war. It feels like suppression. It's really like waging a war of acceptance. If you think of like this more Eastern philosophy of like kind of the soft way of putting it. But I think it makes more sense to say suppression because that's kind of what it feels like in this context where you might be trying this at home in the next few hours. So then you have player B who says what he wants, doesn't value what he wants, encounters an emotional state which is somewhat trying, like, oh, I'm tired, I don't really want to scrim anymore, or oh, I'm tired, like I don't want to solo queue anymore, even though he kind of wants to be the best. So he doesn't, because he doesn't want that more than he wants to satisfy his emotional or psychological urges of watching anime or something else. That's all there is to it. So when you look at like what LS is doing, he's helping people take shortcuts. Like at the end of the coaching session, the best two possible outcomes are one, that you have learned as much as you possibly could from him because he just dumped it all on you and like you got your money's worth, or two, you actually realize that you don't want to get better as badly as you thought and you're wasting your money getting coached by somebody and you should be going and doing something else with your life. Perfect solution. All right, final one, nitpicky. I think that like this is about your philosophy of whether or not you learn the macro from the micro, which is like a key learning philosophy among many elite performers. And so if you have like a fundamental misunderstanding of a micro moment, and all the macro in the world isn't really going to help you because like it's like you got to see the game in a certain way, and that's his belief. And so he teaches what he thinks is 80-20, right? He thinks this is the 80-20, you don't. That's his point of view of the world. So to you, it looks nitpicky. To other people, it might not. And that's a nitpick. All right. Anyway, you don't have to take my word for this. I'm going to host a tournament next week, me versus LS coaching teams. So we're going to take volunteer teams from EU. I'm going to put a Google form to register down below. Please only register if you can make scrims on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central European Time, and you can make the semifinals on Thursday. It's 4 teams, 7 p.m. European Time, and you can make the finals on Friday at 7 p.m. European Time. It's going to be cast, so expect to be cast, and we're also going to draft teams. So once we have a pool, we'll draft teams with 2 other coaches. I'm going to choose 2 coaches from leaguecoaching.gg, like some of our number 1 like top coaches, and then it's going to be me and it's going to be LS. We're all going to have a little tournament and see who is the best coach, but really who the best players are, but who the best coach is. You know what I mean? So if you're interested in that, you're interested in winning some prizes based on like the website. So I think we'll probably give like website. We don't have website cash. We'll give you coaching sessions, on the website. It's really hard to, in a short period like this, like arrange cash prizes because of EU laws and stuff like that. So I'm sorry. Maybe next tournament we'll do cash prize, but anyway, yeah, please register if you're interested in, getting coached in scrims by me and LS and the other 2 coaches, and we'll draft teams, and we'll see who the top dog is at the end of Friday next week.